Hey everybody, welcome to episode 14, hard to believe, of Duke's Download. And today I am so thrilled to have somebody who is not only a hero of mine, but who is, according to Rolling Stone, one of the 50 best stand-up comics of all time, Margaret Cho. And she is on, let's see, it's connecting. Hey there,
Hi,
how's it going?
it's great.
So good to talk to you. I see
So
my
great.
mom is on, by the way. She says hello.
Hi, 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 hi.
But no, I'm so grateful and so excited to talk to you. Well, we've never actually met, which I find so funny. I don't think we've met anyway.
I don't think
I
so.
re-
I mean, we do travel in the same circles, although we are in such a strange world right now.
I know.
But we're definitely in the same kinds of social circles and political activist circles. And certainly when the world goes back to normal, as we hope it does soon, I hope that we will be back out there.
Absolutely. No, and of course, I've been a huge fan and admirer of yours for so long. And I know that my mom obviously loves you a lot. And I just saw it was such funny timing that you did the interview with Kathy Valentine for your podcast.
Yes, yes, yeah, that was really fun. And I actually was that was the first concert I saw was the Vacation Tour. I think I was probably about 14,
No way.
and it was in Berkeley in at the Greek Theater, and it was such an amazing, life-changing experience. And I'm really, really close with Pleasant Gayman, who also lived at Disgraceland.
Right.
So it's so funny that and I think I saw Belinda not too long before everything kind of shut down at Cyndi Lauper's big thing in LA
Worse,
at
right?
at the
December.
holidays. Yes.
My mom says I remember that about the bird.
Yes.
So
Yes. So remember back when everything was we still had shows and rock and roll and all that. It's so crazy to think about.
I mean, and the problem, of course, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about because I know you had your tour. That
Mhm.
did you have to cancel or postpone some of the shows?
Postponed everything until I think 2021 is pretty much right now everything's set. I mean, I feel like it's just you don't want to risk it. You don't want to put people in danger, and it's certainly something that we just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen,
Hmm.
and we just don't know. I mean, I'd rather be safe, and I don't want people to be in any kind of danger. And I'm sad because I feel like for us, it's a very hard. Gay summer is not the same without Pride Month. It's not the same without Fire Island and Provincetown. It's very strange not to have those normal kinds of like without drag summer. It's weird.
Do you perform then a lot, or have you done shows in Provincetown and Fire Island
Hmm.
during the summer? Is that something you do? Uh,
Yes.
I love that.
That's a very big part of my summer. I usually I do shows there, but also I spend a lot of time just hanging out. And then Provincetown really has kind of turned into um, a lot of ways. It's a lot like a um, drag Disneyland or drag Las Vegas because there's so many shows because there's so many wonderful drag stars
Oh yeah, of
now, especially because of RuPaul's Drag Race. And
course.
so they all have amazing shows, and you can see everyone, and everybody's got their shows, and they're all the time, and then it's this rare occasion when you can see all your friends, and then I get to stay out there, and I really miss it. So that's usually my July almost every year. Is I spend the entire month out there, and then I go to from there to Fire Island and spend time out there. So it's very strange to actually be at home, which it's nice here too, but it's just sad to miss all my friends, but that's fine.
So yes, you live in LA then. Have you been in LA during the whole COVID ordeal? The whole,
Yes, I've been sheltering in place at my house with this little
oh,
Lucia,
what's
who's
her name?
very. Her name is Lucia, my little rescue Chihuahua. She
Oh,
hates Instagram Live. She gets really angry at social media. She really doesn't like it. She's really um, she's anti-streaming. She gets mad at mommy. She loves that. I think that what's great about the quarantine is it is nice for the shelters because it's allowed people to have some time with the rescue animals.
yep.
Um, so that's the one nice thing about it. And it is nice to be at home with her. So that's good.
No, and I know it's like, I know I've talked to my mom obviously a lot about the fact that if you're someone who's either a musician or a comedian, and where a big part of your life is touring, and both around the country and around the world. I mean, to go from that kind of lifestyle to then being basically at home nonstop for months at a time, it must be a total like must have been an adjustment for you, I imagine.
Yes, it's very strange, especially I think because I was really in the middle of a tour and I've been touring nonstop for about 25 years. And so this is the first time I've spent this much time at home. But I think that it's really, I mean, it's just a very strange time. It's very important. And I think that it's just what we have to do to keep it contained. And it's so strange how the mask wearing has become a real political issue, and people are really in denial of science, which always becomes political for some reason. I don't know why people want to deny science, but they
Well,
do.
I mean, I just think because with Trump, he uses anything he can get his hands on to drive a wedge between people, and
Hmm.
I mean, it's not just him, but I think he sets the tone where, he's like, okay, how can I use this issue and make it something that can, further polarize and further, make people hate each other, basically, you know?
Yes,
But
yes,
hopefully people are seeing now that, because the numbers are going up, I mean, as horrible as it is, hopefully people are seeing that and going like, okay, you know this is this is a consequence of, that type of sort of ignorant, denial of science. And you know but it's
yes.
what a bizarre time we're living in. But I see you've been staying extremely busy. I mean, you've got the podcast, which is fantastic.
Yes, and that's really been fun, and also being able to just do that in quarantine has been really exciting, and that I love, and that has been very, that and along with doing just other things on social media and kind of making videos and just staying active. It's really it's great. There's like different things that we still can do, which I think is nice. But it's still it's weird. I think that in a lot of ways, all of us people like artists, we just don't know who we are without touring and without working. It's a very strange existential question. Like, it's like, do we even exist, or are we allowed to exist without this constant creation? And
Right.
it's a very strange place to be existentially.
Well, and I've talked to my mom and dad about this as well, about just imagine how weird and how much more difficult this would be if this were happening 20 or 30 years ago without technology,
Oh my God.
and without, and the fact that you're providing, great content for people and entertainment. You're really doing a service for people by
Yes.
not just entertaining, but informative. Like, I just listened to the Sharon Osbourne interview, which was
Oh,
hysterical.
she's great.
It was
She's
great.
great. She's
And
really interesting. Yes, yes.
I learned a lot from it. Yeah, I mean, and about their relationship, and so I mean, but 100%. I mean, thank God for things like, podcasts and YouTube videos, and I think so. I thank you for doing that, because I think as you said, because of technology, there's still an outlet for people like, you and to use it gives you a creative outlet, so you do have a way of still contributing, to
Yes.
zeitgeist and staying involved and active.
I'm so grateful for that. I mean, because yeah, imagine if even if it was just 10 years ago, how it would have taken so long. Like, we would have had to have like DVDs in the mail, like delivered to our house. We would have like a Netflix queue that we would have to set. I mean, that we didn't have all of the shows to stream, that it would have been the same kind of thing, but we wouldn't have as much content to like go over. There would be no Tiger King, even though now at this point, even Tiger King feels dated. Like,
It
it
feels like it was
seems
a
like
century ago now.
it seems so long ago. It's like we're going through so much culture so fast. It's really pretty incredible how much we go through, even in a day. That everything goes over so fast that we're like, how do we even process life? Like, it's just going by so quickly. It's very funny.
It's crazy. And I was going to ask you about The Masked Singer, which was, you were fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But how is that? How did that happen? When did you film that? It must have been, I imagine, before all of this.
Oh my goodness. We filmed it actually. I think it was in 2018. We did it, and then it was really it was very secretive, and nobody had any idea it was going to be as big of a hit as it was. And it was a very, very big show in Korea. That's where it's from. And they had also done a spin-off, or they did a Thai version. And so they'd shown us these clips of it on YouTube, and they wanted to do an American version, and we weren't so we weren't, nobody was together. They didn't show so like whenever you're like in your costume, you didn't see the other performers in their costume. It was always like a body double. So there was no way that you could sort of even know who was in there. It was very secretive. And they had like all of these like non-disclosure agreements that were very, very, very tight. And I think that it's pretty amazing how well they got away with nobody knowing who was who. And I'm really impressed. I think now it's got to be a lot harder to keep those secrets because everybody knows what the show is. The season that I did it was the first season, so nobody knew what the show was going to be. And so now it's like a very, very big deal. So now people are really excited about it. But when I did it, it was like nobody knew. But it was a lot of fun, and I loved singing, and I loved doing all of those songs. And but it's definitely so weird to have a giant mask. Like, it's actually a big, it's like a huge helmet thing that you're singing inside, and it's really funny, but I love it.
I mean, I can't, probably not easy, I imagine, doing that. I mean, it's not even a mask. It's, as you said, it's like a whole helmet on your head. Right?
It's a helmet. I think they're all different. I think it depends on what character you are. Some of them are very like hollow inside, and then some may have some kind of like spongy padding, so that I think it sort of depends. Like your acoustics inside, they're all different, so it's hard to tell. But I think that they're very imaginative, and the costumes are really special, and the kind of like coaching you get is really special, like too, because all of the singing coaches there, they're all like really amazing people. They really know what they're doing, and so I was grateful for the training and all of the singers there. I mean, some of the people that have been on, like people like Dionne Warwick and incredible singers. I was really excited to be in there in the very first season. But it was a lot of fun.
No, it was super amazing, super cool.
Yes, thank you.
And no, obviously, I mean, aside from the fact that you're, extremely funny, the fact that you've used your platform more than, honestly, more than anyone I can even think of. You've been so vocally political and, stridently, vocal about your LGBT rights going back to the beginning of your career. And I was actually there when you spoke at Resist March. Um,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah, that was great.
you were fabulous.
Thank you.
And I mean, I was really curious to get your perspective on. I know it's sort of a broad question, but how do you feel about sort of the political moment that we're at in terms of like not just with Trump, but with Black Lives Matter? I mean, I know I watched your interview you did with Queer Tea as well, where you talked a little about your perspective on the conversation with race that we're having as a country. But like, what is your perspective on everything that's going on right now?
I think it's a really amazing time, because the gay liberation movement has so much that it owes to the Black liberation movement. And we really have so much to gain from our history and our alignment with the civil rights movement. And to come together again is really profound. And I feel like this is a really special moment that we need to really take note of and get real inspiration from. I'm really thrilled that this is happening, and I'm thrilled that like young people like yourself are so excited and thrilled about the future and really thinking about like reimagining a future where we can look at the way that systemic racism has formed our attitudes about Black lives, and it formed our attitudes towards Black lives, and how we can re-examine our attitudes about everything. That's really, really important. And I'm like, how did we get here? And how does racism affect us? And how did we get so far in society with all of these racist ideas? And how do we correct that? And how do we change this narrative completely so we can go forward starting now, and this is like a conversation that's never happened. And I'm really excited about it. And I feel like I can learn more as a queer activist from Black Lives Matter. I feel like I'm so ready to learn more. And I mean, at 51, to be able to learn more as an activist, I think is really powerful.
No, and I think that's something really interesting that you alluded to, which is the fact that people I don't think are always conscious of the fact that the gay rights movement, not just learning from it, but actually directly benefiting from it, the fact that the recent Supreme Court ruling on employment discrimination, that was literally because the Civil Rights Act was passed 50 years ago by and fought for by Black civil rights activists. And now we as an LGBTQ community are now literally being protected by that same law that was fought for. So it's can be kind of mind blowing when you think about sort of the big picture and like how all of these like different, movements are interconnected, So
we have so much to gain. Yeah, we have so much to gain from like learning more about this and learning more about our history and intersectionality, and learning more about what we've gained from the civil rights movement and what we gain from each other back and forth, because it's like, this is like something that we need to know. We've just not known each other, and we've been fighting the same fight for equality for so long.
Absolutely. And one thing I thought, things really interesting is, because obviously I'm a big progressive and, self-proclaimed activist, but but I also have a dry sense of humor, and I know that sometimes there's like that push and pull, that balance between being very supportive of feminism and LGBTQ rights and racial equality, but also grappling with the cancel culture, and sometimes not wanting to or having to find that balance between believing in sort of the politically correct, pro-feminist, pro-gay, racial equality perspective, but then also having a risque sense of humor at times. So like, how do you find that balance between sort of those two? Because they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but
I
Yeah.
think they can exist together. I think they can exist because humor is a way to kind of diffuse so much tension around all of it. And also, when humor is misguided, that's really kind of where cancel culture starts. When humor is kind of used to in a very blunt way, or it's used in a way that's insensitive, or I guess when it's used in a way that's kind of like it's just with it, that is in a way that's divisive, or it's used in a way that's just um, tone deaf. Like, you want to be very sensitive about issues, but also, like, if humor is a way to kind of like be maybe to amplify your own like distrust of yourself, your own confusion, to even like kind of talk about your own fear. When humor can be a way to like illuminate your own like fear of yourself or fear of making a mistake, that's really funny, and that's something that people can understand. When it can actually show off your humanity, then you're doing a great service and letting people know who you are and where you come from. And so I think I encourage that, and I think that cancel culture it comes from a good place because it's really about trying to make us understand how language can harm us, and casual racism exists, and casual bias exists in the way that our culture is. But it also can make it seem like then we're unable to talk about anything that potentially is dangerous, or has a kind of potential like thing to be offensive, or anything that is possibly a scary topic, or something that we need to talk about but people don't want to talk about because it's controversial.
No, I thought it was funny. I saw a quote of yours where you were like, I basically invented cancel culture. Like, I was canceled, years before anybody else was canceled.
Yes.
No, it's that thing, because I support the PC culture in the sense that I do think it's wrong to, I don't think people should be given an excuse to make racist or sexist or homophobic statements. But on the other hand, it's true that sometimes, you need to have a conversation. You need to allow people to have a conversation without fear of being, canceled or shamed or whatever for asking questions, or, and comedy is a great way of sort of having that, and helping people feel comfortable talking about certain topics.
Yes, I think that it's that thing of like when people are afraid, then they would rather just stay silent, and then that keeps us stuck. Because and that's, I think, what keeps racist ideals, homophobic ideals, sexist ideals in place. When we're stuck, then we stay the same. So when we question these things and we ask these questions or make these jokes or whatever it is, then we're actually just at least moving to a place of talking about it, which when we sort of like talk about it, then at least we can make some sort of judgment of whether or not this is the right place to go, and I think that it's always open to discuss. And I don't think that like we don't need to cancel anything, or I think it's always open for discussion. I think it's viable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, and I know, what I find really, one of the other things I find very admirable about you is that, like, from the very beginning, your first show, in fact, All American Girl, was the first show ever on big network to feature or to star an Asian American woman. And so was that sort of groundbreaking, trailblazing thing something that was intentional? Like, was that something you were always conscious of, or did it sort of just happen organically?
Well, it was something that I wanted to do, but it wasn't something that I had necessarily thought about, or it wasn't a goal that had been, something that like I thought would happen, or, it was just something that it happened, but it was super exciting that it happened, but it was something that it was like, just, it seemed like this impossible thing that couldn't possibly happen, just because also television was very different then. There was only 4 networks, And you think about that, like there's only four, and that now think of all the hundreds of networks there are, but there was only four at the time, and one of them had just started, and Fox had just started, so it was very, very new, and so it was a really different landscape in terms of television, and so that was such a like different time in TV, but it was incredible to think about, and it was a great, exciting time. But yeah, so it was a great achievement, and since then we've had different times in diversity. Now there seems to be a lot more of an Asian American presence in television and in movies. Not as much as I would like to see, but I think that there is more. And also we have a more of a global presence, certainly. If you look on Netflix, there's an incredible array of Korean dramas in particular, which I think is really exciting. So we're looking at television on a more of a global, entertainment in general, of course, on a more of a global scale, which I think is really cool.
Absolutely. Representation and visibility is important. And no, so I read about, and of course I knew about the history of the show and how groundbreaking it was, but I also know on a personal front, and this is something that really resonated with me because it's something that I don't think people talk about enough, and I've dealt with it on a personal level, is I know out of that experience you had some issues with body image and self-esteem, and and as a gay man, that's something that I've really grappled with for a long time. And I guess I really admire that you've been so forthright and honest about that. And is there any insight or advice that you would give to people about, how to sort of overcome those issues or learn to live with those issues?
Those issues are very tough. Body issues are something that are so difficult. And I think that if for all of us, I think especially, for people who have, these other issues, whether you're a person of color, whether you're women, you're gay, or these things that when you're different in any way, there's this desire to sort of quote unquote normalize other parts of your being, so that if I can't be, say, quote unquote normal in these areas, that is white, whatever, then I'm going to be as thin as I possibly can. And so that kind of weird need of normalcy can translated into eating disorders that were pretty crazy, and it's very destructive, and you don't really see how terrible that is until much later, and it's a very insidious thing, and it's hard to correct, and it's a societal problem. It's something that goes along with show business. It goes along with a lot of different sort of imagery, society's image of us. And, fortunately nowadays there's a lot of different sort of definitions of beauty and different definitions of body image that we sort of take in as empowering, which I think is really cool. So I'm really excited about that.
No, I thought that was a kind of a great point you just made, that you can't, whether it's because you're Asian or Black or a woman or whatever, that you can't maybe conform in one way because of your an immutable characteristic, your race or whatever, but you try to conform as much as you can, by losing a ton of weight and to the detriment of your health or whatever. And I think maybe so the lesson would be, trying to conform to other people's idea is sort of a hopeless and it's not something that people should do. It's number one because it's futile, and number two because you shouldn't have. Who cares about trying to conform to what other people think is the acceptable or good way to look or to be, and that keep trying to aspire to that is sort of an endless and destructive way to live.
Right. I mean, I think that it's just trying to find a healthy balance for yourself where you're having a good time and enjoying, your body in the way that you want to. I think that it's really, it's got to be all about just having fun. And I mean, it can't be about sort of just trying to fit into this sort of narrow idea of what size has to be right. And, it's not about that. It's really just about feeling good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you. I mean, in so many ways, I appreciate what you do,
Thank you.
you've helped me feel better about myself, and you made the world such a much better place. So I'm so thrilled to talk to you. I really do hope that we get to meet in person when all of this is over.
I'm sure that we will. I'm sure we
A
will.
go-go show. Hope, God willing. I mean, if things do go back to normal by next spring or next summer, they're supposed to have shows in LA. So,
I would love that. Well, I will see you there.
all right. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.